I trusted you. Lies. Okay. So there's a whole lot going on here. But I trust Andy. Even despite that little mix-up. I trust him. Let's see. So, are we going to use the keys at all or no? So we're not going to key a background on it? Okay.
What I'll do is I'll be back in here and talk a little bit about the equipment.
Yeah.
Do you want to tweet something?
Yeah. Just send them to youtube.com/user/retro.
Let me have your microphone.
How do we look? Look good. All right. What has all this equipment done to you?
I don't know. It's a good question. Let me just get media. Can't do media. You guys are killing me.
What can you do?
That's a good question. Can't do color bars. Oh, I can't do anything right now. Why is that?
Well, it switched between program. All right. Stand by. Stand by. Gonna make the iPad work. Gonna do that CSS. I look very pasty too. Just saying. There I am. Media.
I don't know how long this will stay. So, yeah, how it goes. All right. You ready, Tim?
Did you get the connection issues worked out?
I hope so. All right. Hey,
Hey,
remember us?
is this how far I'm supposed to hold it?
Yeah, about right like this.
Right here.
You should be good.
Karaoke time.
I can't really see
with Tina and Andrea.
around the tripods that we have. We've got quite a setup here. But first we should just say, welcome to DTLT Today.
Welcome.
You haven't seen, I guess, the two of us in a while. Jim's been interviewing faculty and doing some different things with the DTLT Today brand. But we thought we would get together with whoever's out there to talk a little bit about some of the future broadcasting possibilities. Now, people who follow DTLT know that there's this thing called the Information and Technology Convergence Center, and it is being built as we speak. But we've got some interesting technology that's kind of going to go in that space. But I've been playing around with some equipment that's going to help us do some of the things that we'll do broadcast-wise right here in our old studio, or what will be our old studio soon. My boy Tim Owens is here, and he likes to talk and maybe geek out over
You're
this
doing
stuff.
all the talking. I'm here.
You
for
like
all
to talk about this stuff.
I'm here for all the questions because I have no idea how any of this stuff works right now. But Andy is
Excellent.
going to show us
So-
all the various little pieces.
I'm going to kind of describe it. I'm actually, hopefully, for the duration of the show, be able to control the interface from my iPad here, connected back to the switcher. So let me just dial up a different shot. So what you're looking at right now is just a large monitor, the monitor that we have in our offices, and this is what's called the multi-view. And you can see some of the equipment there as well. The switcher is kind of in the middle lower part of the picture. It's called the ATEM Television Studio, and Blackmagic is the company that makes it. So we've got some Blackmagic equipment that's allowing us to do a lot of this stuff. Some basic Shure SM58 microphones are going into a mixer. That mixer is going into one of the cameras, going into this camera, and it's giving us the audio. We'll switch eventually to some different types of microphones, so we don't have to hold these big karaoke-looking microphones in our
Although
hands.
I kind of like it.
One of the things I did want to do was kind of do the little reveal here.
Oh God.
Oh God! I had a little bit of an argument today, not an
Andy.
argument, but a disagreement with my barber today. So
Don't lie. You're joining the military.
yeah,
Just
I
come
ship
forward
out in
with it.
6 weeks. Sorry, Mom. I should have let you know, but so anyway, so let's switch back to the multi-view. So we've got a few different inputs. The one on the upper left-hand corner is the shot that you've been seeing, and the upper right is the multi-view. And multi-view is basically all the different cameras and media options that we have, so that we can see it all in one interface.
And that multi-view is coming. So you said a switcher. I see you have a picture of a hardware switcher, but
Yeah.
we're using a software version of it right now.
So let me switch to the television studio image. So here's just a basic kind of, this is a Blackmagic slide with some cameras and a monitor and a computer, and the ATEM television studio switcher is in the foreground on the left in front of the cameras. And basically what that allows us to do is to bring in HDMI and SDI sources. Right now we have the cameras running out HDMI to HDSDI switchers, and the SDI goes into the switcher and allows us to use relatively inexpensive cameras, but give us long runs of SDI cable, which is something that we need to do in some live production situations.
And I guess there
Switch back to our. Go ahead.
there are several benefits to doing this over Wirecast in terms of not relying on a computer's resources in terms of running it, or what's the big benefit
Yeah.
of doing it on the hardware side versus a software program like Wirecast?
So previously we're using Wirecast, and we would have we wanted to get multiple camera inputs. So Wirecast, we would use a FireWire camera, which these Canon HV40s also do FireWire, and they've been great. But they also, luckily, and I kind of tried to future-proof this so that these cameras could be used for long term. And so we're using HDMI currently, but the old FireWire bus on the computer would only essentially give you one camera input. It was difficult to do two. They would share the same bus. Sometimes they would conflict. It would be really kind of unreliable to try to get 2 cameras. Then we'd want to bring in things like computer desktop video so we could show YouTube videos or do a Google or Skype conversation, something like that. So the advantage of the Blackmagic switcher, it's $1,000 piece of equipment, but it's hard to find any switcher really that's less expensive than that for the number of inputs that it has and the capabilities that it has. So instead of the Wirecast software, we're using the same laptop, our Wirecast laptop, to do the switching. So it's just a software interface. And, well, what it does is it takes the place of this particular item. So essentially on the computer screen, you get this panel functionality. So there's a little virtual T-bar that you can pull down, and basically you can punch up the preview camera that you want and then cut to it. So if I want to cut back to the shot of the 2 of us, I just hit the cut button. This is actually all on the same wireless network that the switcher and the computer that's controlling this. So my iPad is on the same wireless network, so I can control this here, or somebody can control it at the switcher as well. At the computer.
And looking at the software, I mean, it very much looks a lot like that hardware interface you just saw. You got the little T-bar thing and a bunch of buttons.
Exactly.
So.
It has a little bit more control over things like keying, and that's one of the things that you'll notice that right now we're not doing. I don't have control over the actual key, and I didn't want to be able to have it up and then have to turn it off. So I kept it off. So that's why you see the green screen behind us right now, but normally that would be filled with an image of something that we've keyed into the background.
Well, right now they don't see us because they see the switch.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
Sorry, Tim's my director, and he's going to point out all the things that that's not being seen on.
I'm that person in the newsroom with like the wall of screens.
Yeah, he's usually screaming at
3
me.
left, picture in picture.
Right, thank you.
Is that the terms you use?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I'm new to this broadcasting thing,
Like
so
I need a big headset like the people that wear in the NFL.
we can arrange that.
Okay.
We can
get
I can order those.
I want that.
So we've got, like I said, we've got multiple inputs, and I'll give you in a second a little bit of a closer tour. We've got 2 cameras right now that I've shown you. So we've got camera 1 here, which actually I've got it labeled camera 6, and then we have this camera that gives you the multi-view. All right, and I'm able to just cut back and forth between these 2 cameras. So those are the 2 Canon Vixia cameras. I've got another camera that I'll show you in just a bit that will give us the tour look as we go really kind of deep behind the scenes.
And so all of those, I mean, I know you mentioned SDI, but for the most part, we're into the actual switcher. It's all HDMI ports? Is that the idea mostly?
So there's 8 total ports, but you can only use 6 of them at a time. So if you have a mixture of HDMI and SDI, you can only do 2 of the ports share HDMI and SDI. Okay. So you have the capability of either doing 2 HDMI and 4 SDI, or vice versa, 4 HDMI and 2 SDI, which is good. But what we've found is the HDMI stuff is kind of unreliable. The cameras don't put out enough juice, enough signal to send like a 25-foot HDMI cable. So that was the limitation that we were running into, is that we could only have short HDMI cables to our cameras, and that doesn't lend itself to putting the cameras where they need to be. So basically what we did was say, all right, we need to go SDI so we can do longer cable runs. What do we need? And so we bought 2 of these Blackmagic converter boxes. So HDMI goes in, SDI goes out, and then the SDI can go into the switcher. So camera 5 and camera 6 are using these switcher boxes. So the Canon cameras to the switcher boxes to the switcher via HDMI switch to SDI.
And then so I guess for computers, some computers have HDMI out. I think our Mac Mini does.
Yep.
But for ones that don't, you'd have to have some sort of interface. Like I know we have the Thunderbolt interface to give us HDMI.
Right. Yeah.
Out
So
from a computer.
So whatever way you can get HDMI out of your computer, and as Tim says, most computers these days have at least some capability of putting out that digital video signal.
At least on the Mac side. I don't know.
Yep. Others PCs do too.
Really?
Yeah.
I know a lot of HDMI in.
Yep. No.
Oh no, I'm thinking the wrong way around.
Yeah, that would be for capture.
Gotcha.
A lot of them don't have
a lot
capture.
Of them don't have capture,
right,
but they do have the out.
Right. Most of them have HDMI out.
Yeah.
And that's common just because a lot of people want to hook their computers up to their large screen TVs. And so that's an easy way to take care of that. Now the Macs, like you said, we're using a Mac Mini. And so what I'll do is I'll bring up my Mac Mini into preview. And so we can just switch to that. And here's what the Mac interface looks like.
That was what Andy's hair looked like before the haircut, just
Right.
so you know. That's a close-up macro shot.
Yeah, and that color, too. If you really got in close, it would look exactly like that. But now it looks like this.
Yeah.
So anyway, so
better than no hair at all.
Yes, I thought we were pretty close.
You
close
were close there
when I
for a
first saw
minute.
the my visage in the mirror.
3s and the 2 attachments, like it all starts to blur.
I was a little scared. So I haven't seen my family yet today after this, so we'll see how they react. So anyway, so here's the shot and here's the computer screen. Now what this will enable us to do is bring in a Skype conversation, Google Hangout, or whatever kind of other webcam communication that we do, but also for us to play YouTube videos, Vimeo videos, whatever's on the computer screen. We can play screencasts. We can demonstrate software, and it's a high quality, high definition kind of interface going into the switcher. So it's using HDMI out of the Mac Mini into the switcher. So there's a little bit of fiddly stuff that you need to get into to get the Mac any HDMI signal to be the right source for the switcher. But basically it's a 1080i or a 1080 interlaced signal that you need to get out of your computer, and once you've got that, you're good to go. Now what could happen as we do this is that the Mac goes into sleep mode and we just have to hit the keyboard to kind of activate it again. But and we'll also be able to take the audio out of the computer as well, because the HDMI cable will provide video and audio. So we can turn down the microphones and play the video and then come back to us, or mix our video or our audio over top of the audio coming out of the Mac, whatever. So it'll be a better way to kind of bring the computer inputs into the broadcast, as opposed to what Wirecast did, which is do what's called desktop presenter. So you would run a computer on the same network as the Wirecast computer, run desktop presenter, and then use that as an input on Wirecast. And so you could bring in a computer input, but it wasn't as high quality. You deal with some latency issues, and that's the other thing that with FireWire is the latency issues. There's virtually no latency issues with the HDMI. Oh, I'm talking through my hair on the computer screen. So as you can see, I'm getting used to this interface. Tim would probably take over and be able to just run rings around me and get everything, all the keys working and all that stuff right away.
I think it brings up a good point, is that while you're able to kind of make do with an iPad interface, it seems like for this setup, what you really want is a dedicated person that's going to be monitoring the audio, switching between your camera shots, and making sure that it's all sort of everything's going on the screen.
Yeah, and that's
supposed to.
And this isn't even controlling like the audio interface. Now this is a program called Strata Lite. Strata is the company. They make a Strata Pro. So this one, the Strata Lite, is about $10, and so this interfaces with the Blackmagic switcher software. The Strata Pro is like $50, but it has all the buttons on it. So I'd be able to control the keys. I think I might even be able to go into the audio and change some of the parameters with the audio as well. So that's another thing that you'd want as a dedicated person kind of monitoring the audio as well. Sure. But that can be controlled on the computer switcher, the audio can. So it's kind of an interesting interface, and I'll show it here in a second. So basically what we have, I'm gonna do some hot switching here as I show you the input. So camera 1 is a mystery camera for now. Camera 2 is the Macintosh interface. There's nothing on camera 3. There's nothing on camera 4. Camera 5 is the multi-view, or the Canon HV40 that's showing at the screen, which shows you the multi-view interface. And then camera 6 is back to us sitting on the good old cuddle couch.
Oh.
Remember the cuddle couch, Tim?
I do.
Hey, Martha, you remember cuddle couch? Oh, she's gone. So anyway, that's what we have. Oh, she's hiding.
Yeah.
Oh,
I saw a particular finger pop up from
Did she?
above
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I missed that. So that's what we have in terms of cameras. But I did want to show you the mystery camera, and I'll switch stuff when I get over there. But hopefully I can still do that.
Know how to work that thing.
You don't have to, but if you want to like play around with it,
kind of scares me.
Until I get over there, that's fine.
I'll hold it up for people to see what it looks like on the screen.
Yeah.
So
it
very similar to the interfaces that you saw earlier, just a bunch of buttons. You know, he's been pressing. I think, what is it? Cut switches between. See, I know that much. I can switch between the two.
Yep. And then your program items are on the bottom, or your preview items are on the bottom, and your program are on the top. So
okay,
you're switching to the preview of the camera.
Mystery.
And now, hey,
oh my,
and that's a great segue.
What a shot!
Now I can stop doing that. All right, so here's what the computer. I've got this is a GoPro camera in my hand right now. So we can even integrate GoPro cameras into this environment. So it's a special HDMI cable that goes into the GoPro. It's called micro HDMI. But basically what it allows us to do is go micro to regular HDMI and again another HDMI input into the computer. So this is what the switcher interface looks like on the Mac Pro. So it looks very similar to the iPad, but it's got some more details to it. So I'll just basically go around and give you the tour with this GoPro camera, and hopefully you won't get too dizzy. But it's a nice switcher interface, and so you've got camera 1 through 6 and the different media players. You've got the auto and cut, including the T-bars, and you can also do the green screen stuff here as well. Okay. As I go over, here's the switcher in its little box, and this is kind of the unexciting part, but it's the Blackmagic ATEM Television Studio. And you won't really be able to see it, but and I don't think the microphone will even be able to reach, but I'll go back behind it. And as you can see, there's just like a whole bunch of wires going back in there. And so that's various combinations of HDMI and SDI going into the back of the switcher.
So, and that's a rack-mounted switch. You've got it in sort of a portable little thing for rack mounts, but so it's just a rack-mounted switch. All of the cameras, all of your interfaces, it all goes in there, and then out of that, how is the software on the MacBook Pro controlling that switcher device? Over the network?
Yes. So the way that I've got this set up so that we can do the iPad is everything is all on the same wireless network. Most of the time what you would do is you would switch it, you would connect the network directly to the computer. Mm-hmm. So there's a network port in the switcher itself. You connect it directly to your computer, and it's essentially then on its own kind of LAN. Okay. All right. And then you also need a USB cable to do some of the other parts of this. So you need the Ethernet and a USB cable connected to that for the switcher. If you put it all on the same wireless network, or the same network essentially, then you can connect to it wirelessly with something like an iPad. You just have to make sure that the router settings are what it needs to be. And there's a little setup utility that does that. So Tim, or actually I can do it, or you can do it. Switch back to the GoPro camera.
Yeah, it's a bunch of cables.
Oh, so you're waiting for a good shot?
I was waiting for a good shot.
Is that what you're trying to tell me? So
like
there's
a good
Tim.
Producer.
There's Tim, our director,
away.
peeking in between the two cameras. So, and the two cameras that are here are again the two Canon Vixia HV40s, and then in front of that is a mixer, which it's kind of hard to see, and I can't really get all that close right now. We'll get some longer cables to hopefully go longer distances, but
and that's just a 2-channel mixer.
4-channel mixer, but 2 XLRs.
2 XLR.
You could add more inputs if you wanted to.
Gotcha.
I'm going to set the microphone down for just a second. Hopefully that's not going to bother too many folks. And here's the HDMI to SDI converter box. Okay, so this is coming. The HDMI on underneath my hand here on the left-hand side is coming out of the camera, and then SDI is coming out. And if you've ever seen the old BNC connectors, that's all these are, BNC cables. There's higher capacity HD cables that come out of this. So when we start talking 4K, which we will be talking about very soon.
So excited.
We'll be able to do 4K conversion out of a camera into a switcher. So, but these are handy little boxes. They're about $200 to $300, I think. Less than $300 to get one of these. So we've got this one and then another one over on the other side. And I'm going to gently step over all my cables and just show you. There's the other one right there coming out of the other HV40. Okay, and then we're broadcasting this live. Why don't you switch back to your shot just for a second, Tim? And Martha, I think I got you on the camera very briefly. Oh, and nobody can hear me right now either. So.
Okay.
I mean, they can sort of hear me, but.
Sort of, kind of hear you, but they can really hear me.
Okay. So what I wanted to show you next was this little gadget. And this is called the Teradek Video. And if we go up really close, you can see that there's something that says DTLT Today.
Would you like me to actually have that up on the screen?
Oh, sorry. All right.
I might have forgotten.
No, it's okay. You know,
thing.
we're still working out the bugs and we're figuring out all the details. So go ahead and switch back to your camera for a second, Tim.
Okay.
I need to see if I can't grab my microphone, or at least get it a little bit closer. So stall while you're over there.
Let's see. What karaoke songs could I sing? Little Sweet Caroline.
There you go.
So Andy's going to show us this little box that handles the live streaming, because unlike Wirecast, which is sort of an all-in-one software solution that's doing everything in some capacity, we sort of have hardware ways of getting at a lot of the different features, and this is one of them.
Okay, so if you switch back to the GoPro, oh, you already switched back to the GoPro. You never unswitched.
I did.
Oh, you did. Okay.
I'm quick
here's.
on it.
See, I can't even keep up with you. So here's our Teradek Video, and we're actually streaming this show live with a 30 or 40 second delay to YouTube. So this is the DTLT Today episode. I think it's 112. And this is just a little box that essentially takes an HDMI input. That's the HDMI, and just goes into the network. We're running this on the same network as the other, as the switcher. But this is just a basic kind of do one thing box, and that's get whatever your video content coming from your HDMI output into this box and on the web.
And what I like about this, and I was just talking to you about this a couple days ago, and it's pretty timely, is that if you didn't want to do all of this fancy switching and bring in Skype and all this video and stuff, if you had like a remote thing where you just wanted to have a single camera that was broadcasting to the web, that box will do it. So you just have your camera, and then the HDMI out of your camera goes right into that box, and then the box has to be connected to the network.
Exactly.
And I'm assuming not wireless. It would be networked, right?
You can also do wireless.
It does wireless.
Yep.
But you'd have to have a pretty strong wireless network, I would assume, to handle live video.
Yes.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't be able to necessarily stream easily at 720p, which is what we're doing right now.
But yeah, so like I've got a faculty member who does end-of-year presentations with their students for an online exhibit, Marjorie Yock.
Yep.
We actually have an episode where we talk about her Venice exhibit, and so they're doing it again this spring. And, rather than, all this equipment's great, but rather than bring all that in just for this one short little thing, just bringing that box and a camera on a tripod, and I'm good to go to be able to stream to the web is awesome.
Should we tell them the price?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering. This is a lot of equipment, and what does it come out to?
So what I'll try, what I want to do
on us.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna build up the suspense.
Okay.
What I want to do is write up exactly all the pieces of equipment that's putting this together today.
Right.
So we talked about the Canon cameras. We talked about the mixer. We talked about the switcher. Obviously, you need a dedicated computer to do this as well. So that's a cost that you may not have to bear right at the moment. You can use something that's existing, and it doesn't have to be a very powerful computer
That's what I was
either.
just about to ask, like hardware requirements.
Yeah,
for
and
it.
any computer. In this case, it's a Mac computer in the last 5 or 6 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to have a lot of horsepower. You're not necessarily doing encoding, but you can also capture this video. We're actually capturing the video to YouTube, so that's going to be both the live source and the playback source. So I'm not recording to the hard drive of the computer right at the moment, but we could to get an alternate copy. So essentially, what we've got are, what I was going towards was I'll write up a list of all the equipment that we're using, all the prices, even links to get the stuff and that kind of thing. Put a link to it in the description of the YouTube video. So the Teradek video box is about $700. I think we bought a bunch of equipment. So B&H Photo, I don't know if we can promote people, but they were great and gave us a deal on a bunch of some of this nice equipment. So,
and to be honest, like at first I was like $700 just for the one piece that's streaming,
right?
But I think I'm a little bit spoiled because it's only in like the past year or so, less than a year, that we've been playing with the YouTube streaming, which is actually incredible. Yep. Because it used to be that you would spend a ton of money on a live stream or a Ustream Pro account so that you could do high-def streaming and you were still sort of limited by how many users were going to watch it and all that stuff. And it seems like now, if you want to stream directly to YouTube, that's completely free. So, this really would be your only cost to bear in terms of the streaming side of things.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you get a box that functionally just does very well. And that's the other thing that I don't know what I did with it. Somewhere around here is my iPhone. You can control the starting and stopping of the video interface with an iPhone. You just have to have it connected to the video box, and it's an app that sets up all the parameters. Once you've got the YouTube account set up, you just kind of authorize the video app to log into it, and then you start the broadcast there, and it's pretty seamless. You have to go into your YouTube live event area and set up your programs first, which you had to do anyway. But once you do that and you log into the video app, it will see those events and allow you to start and stop those when it's appropriate. So it's pretty seamless.
Yeah, the YouTube streaming stuff, it can be a little complicated at first glance, but it actually makes a lot of sense in terms of setting up these events, because then you're able to embed the video just like in a YouTube video, and if people start trying to play it ahead of time, it gives you a nice countdown that says what the event is and when it's going to happen.
Right.
It integrates with Google Plus and things like that, which not a lot of people use, I'm sure. But, the interface does make sense, and for free, it's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. The downsides are we wouldn't necessarily be able to do like a chat session that is right on par with what we're saying, because there is about a 30 to 40 second delay, and I've heard that to kind of be an average for people who've used the YouTube live events system. But it's a pretty professional system, and like I say, we're streaming at 720p, and it seems to be keeping up, and you can go higher than that. So it's pretty high quality for a free streaming service. You're not necessarily able to, like Ustream, go in, turn on your webcam, and do an instant live program. Right. There's as Tim said, there's some setup there that makes it a little bit not problematic, but there's some things that you need to kind of take care of in advance. But when you combine YouTube with Wirecast as well, Wirecast has the YouTube parameters kind of built in too. But when you combine this with something like the video streaming box, it gets pretty easy. I mean, it's as easy as an iPhone interface, and there's other parameters that you can dive into, but really it's kind of authorizing and then hitting the buttons, and you're off and running. And it'll tell you and give you a live preview on your iPhone of what you're streaming out. So it's pretty slick. So like I say, that's $700. The box, the television studio from Blackmagic, the ATEM television studio, is about $1,000. You can use really any HDMI camera. In most cases, you'd need an HDMI camera that would have a microphone input to do it the way that we're doing it. There's other ways to bring the audio into the switcher, but it requires another box and a little bit more complicated setup. So it's easier for us in this situation just to take the mixer output into the HV40 Canon cameras. So the HV40s I think are selling for, if you can get them, they're hard to get, but they're in the neighborhood of $600. We've been using the Vixia HFR 400s, and I think they have the 500 out now, and those are right around $300.
Okay.
They have a mini HDMI out, and they would have a microphone input as well. So those are perfectly appropriate, and we'll put those into service at some point as well. So you need 2 cameras, so starting at about $300 a piece. We've got some pretty decent, hefty tripods. Oh, no, right. If you wanted to get 2 cameras, you don't need to have 2 cameras, but for $300 a piece, that's a real easy way to go. Now, you can get cameras with built-in HD SDI ports so that you wouldn't have to have the converter boxes, but those start at around $2,000.
Yeah.
Maybe it's $1,500. I'm not sure, but you can get at the long run kind of situation going from HDI to SDI. You can get at that better with the converter boxes.
Yeah.
So taking any camera that does HDMI, going through a converter box, a $300 converter box, and going to that. So really, these cameras are whatever they are plus the $300 for each one. So you add $300 to each camera. So for $600, you get essentially an HD SDI camera. And then we're using 2 Shure SM58 microphones. We've got some other shotgun boom microphones, lavalier microphones. We're going to try out some different stuff. And so that goes into a Mackie. I don't know the model number offhand, but it's just a little 4-channel mixer, $100.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, and I do recommend the Mackie stuff. I played around with a lot of different mixers. The Mackie stuff is just it's well known. Professional musicians use Mackie stuff all the time. There's other manufacturers out there, Behringer, Alesis, but I'm starting to like the Mackie stuff just because it sounds really good. It's the preamps and all the stuff that give you the amplification. It's really good versus some of the other cheap mixers that are out there.
Now, if in terms of microphones, if we wanted to do like wireless lavaliers, what kind of cost would you look at for like a wireless lavalier system for one person, for 2 people, like per thing? And then I assume, you have the transmitter and then the receiver would go into the same mixer. So, but what do those run usually? Because I imagine that's what a lot of people want to do, is be able to set up a wireless lavalier on someone and then bring it into their mixer.
Yeah, so in certain situations, we've used the Sennheiser wireless lavaliers, and again, I don't know the models. It's like MK100 or something like that. They're typical what they call ENG microphones. They're to be used in the field, and they've got a lot of different ways to configure them: wireless lavaliers or wireless handheld. But those run for about $600 for the transceiver and the receiver.
Okay.
And so you take the transceiver, the microphone part of it, and you send it to the receiver, which is plugged into your mixer. In our case, we connected it directly to our camcorder. In most instances, we didn't have to use 2 of them. But that's a real cheap and easy way and good high quality way to get audio from somebody who can move around and sit, kind of use it wirelessly, that kind of thing. In this situation, there's no reason to go wireless necessarily, like for a studio, though you could do it. So we've got you just use XLR microphone cables, and we've got wireless or wired lavalier microphones that we can use, and those sound really good. So the point being, there's tons of different ways to do this, and I'll have all the different ways that we're going to attempt to do this as we move forward. So we'll be talking about good old handheld microphones, wireless lavaliers, boom microphones, also known as shotgun microphones in some cases. So lots of different ways to get good audio for your video as well. So
we're probably looking at a couple $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, if you include a brand new computer in a setup like this, you might be talking about over 5,000. But when we originally put the kit together with the camera and the FireWire stuff, we were purchasing a Mac Pro for around $2,000 or so. For not much more, you can do something where you can have up to 6 inputs,
right.
And then also have like media coming in, the images and that kind of thing. So it's really not that much more. And at this point, I don't know of another switcher out there for $1,000 that can do what this ATEM switcher can do. So this stuff is coming down in price all the time. We'll have a lot more of these kinds of Blackmagic products in our Convergence Center. And so as those come in and we get to play around with those, we'll show you what the extra capabilities are of going higher in price. As I mentioned, 4K is one of the things that we're going to kind of investigate as we get into that space. So we're looking at some 4K cameras, looking at 4K switchers, and whether anybody's going to see a difference or not, we'll see. But we'll at least be capable. Yeah, exactly. And then we've got GoPro cameras, lots of possibilities, and there's some other gadgets that I haven't even mentioned today, and we're probably running way long. But we wanted to just kind of show you what we've got cooking. I wanted to get back in the swing of making some TV.
Yeah.
I know Tim's been burning to get back on the screen.
Well, with all
as well.
this equipment, we've got to. Right?
Absolutely. there's we want to share our love of this equipment with you, the viewers who we love.
Well,
so
I want Andy to share it with me.
It's not gonna happen.
I'm
not gonna, not for a while.
Unbelievable.
He's gonna need some training.
It's all the toys. Do you see this?
I know. I did get a lot of toys. Speaking of GoPro cameras and other things, we've got all these various pieces of production equipment for a group in an initiative that's moving towards kind of describing what will happen in the Convergence Center. So I've got a group of faculty, staff, and students that are working with this stuff, and hopefully they'll get a chance to use some of this stuff in the production of their projects. So not all of them are strictly video related, but I think a lot of them have talked about, I want to use the GoPro camera, or I want to use the little Steadicam Smoothie to do that. So and this is all stuff that we'll hopefully talk about in future episodes.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right.
I'm tired. This is tiring doing this. All right, so you don't want to hear that. I'm
assume
Andy
the
Rush.
setup is a little bit more tiring than the actual.
Yeah,
is it just tiring to sit here and talk with me?
No, actually, I think it's just I feel like I need to get all this information out. So
Gotcha.
I'm keyed up and ready to go and excited about talking about this, but at the same token, it's exhausting.
Gotcha.
So.
All right, well.
I'm oversharing. I'm sorry. You don't need to be exposed to this. All right, so I'm Andy Rush.
And I'm Tim Owens.
And happy DTLT Today to you.
See y'all.
Bye. We're not gone yet.